Hi, just want to take a few minutes and walk through how I set up my high pass filter to run in parallel with the mix so that I could run all the instruments that I wanted through it and have it on all the time throughout the mix, okay? So the thing with the filter is there's quite a difference in sound. There is an off position and a switch to turn it off, but it affects the sound a lot. If you have it off and you just turn it on, I find that it's too big of a change to the sound to have it working properly throughout your mix as well. Okay, let's just take a listen to that before we go any further. So I'm going to turn the filter off and then I will turn it on. Okay. So there is a difference there. The big difference, of course, is that when the filter's off, there is no high pass applied. So you, when you, as soon as you crank the filter on, you're mixing in a high pass signal running in parallel with your main mix, which makes the bass sound like it drops out a bit more. Okay, so it changes the sound of your mix somewhat. And I wanted to get the filter working and be able to use it on as many instruments as I want on a mix without having that effect. So what I did is I decided to set up a parallel channel in my mixer, and the only way I could do that with this mixer is to use an auxiliary send. So I sent everything except for the bass and the percussions through to auxiliary 1. Then I took a cable from my auxiliary 1 out and I plugged it into channel 16 here. And on channel 16 I inserted the filter. And I decided I'd park the filter all the way up for the mix. For when I don't want the filter on, I'm going to have it cranked all the way to 7500K. Or sorry, 7500 hertz, 7.5K. Okay? So then, in order to offset the sound, I did a little subtractive EQ. I have a 12K high shelf that I turned down a bit in order to help balance out the sound. And then on my next band down, my high band, I set a narrow band and I subtracted, right around that 7500 hertz mark to combat the resonance that would be coming out from the filter right at that spot. So it made the mix sound a lot cleaner, a lot more natural. Then I actually mixed my song. Putting this on at the end of your song, if you have your mix done, you're not likely going to be happy with that. You want to set up your filter in parallel first. I adjusted my levels basically so that everything sounded balanced, but I hadn't done my EQing and stuff yet. Then I adjusted the EQ on my filter channel to try and get it sounding as close as I could to what it would sound like with that channel bypassed. Okay? So you get that set up, then you do your mix. Okay, so you are mixing through the filter. You're mixing with the filter on all the time. Just like putting a compressor on your master bus on your song, you don't want to slap it on at the end. You want to start at the beginning mixing into the compressor. You're using it as a mix tool, not a mastering tool. Same thing with the filter here. So I did the mix through the filter, and it can be a little tricky. It can be a little tedious almost sometimes, but this went pretty good. Once you get a decent EQ set on that filter channel to counteract what's happening up at that 7500 hertz mark, you got most of the hard work done right there. Okay. So then I ran running all the sounds through, did the mix. As I'm going through, I'm checking the filter, turning it off and on. Of course, you're going to get all kinds of resonant boosts when you turn the filter on. I mean, that's what it is. It is a high-pass resonant filter. If we didn't have that resonance at every, spot as you adjust the knob, you wouldn't notice it as much. You wouldn't notice the steppiness of the filter as much. It's the resonance that really makes it stand out and that we want to hear. So I went through that. set up your levels to where it sounds proper for you on that on your return, or not your return channel, but your filter channel, to where the filter is giving you the effect that you want. You want it more subtle, you could run that parallel channel a little lower in level. You want it more pronounced, you could put it a bit higher. Just realize what it does as you hit certain frequencies when you go through the sound, how it affects it. So try it out throughout your song and adjust your level to where you want it to be, right? So that's the basic setup of it, right? Mix through the filter. Set it up, send your sounds through, do some subtractive EQ on the filter channel, and then mix your song, mix all your tracks, and test out the filter as you're going along to make sure it sounds the way you want. And in the end, it sounded like this. Last thing I want to show you is I'm just going to toggle the EQ off on the filter channel so that you could hear the difference that it makes. Okay, you're going to hear a bunch of extra high end, of course, when I turn that EQ off. Okay, with the drums only playing there, you can really hear it on the snare. If you had troubles hearing it, just go back again and listen. Go over that part with just the drums, and you will hear the snare, sound a little annoying when I turn that EQ off. If you had to try to combat that EQ on your individual channels as you were mixing, if you did not apply a EQ to your filter channel, you wouldn't be too happy. You'd get frustrated doing your mix, most likely. I find that EQing that channel and getting it sounding, smooth with the filter on, that was the key to getting this set up for me. So I'd love to hear from you if you're running a hardware filter, how you set it up, how you use it. If you've got videos on it, point me to them or just put it in the comments. All right. Thanks for checking out the video.